On a warm summer morning, July 14th, 2019, the quiet town of Utica, New York, woke to a nightmare that would soon spread far beyond its borders. For one family, life would never be the same, and for the rest of the world, it was a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the corners of the internet. This is not just a story about tragedy. It's about obsession, betrayal, and the ripple effects of cruelty in the digital age. And as you listen, I want you to imagine how something so horrific could begin with what seemed like ordinary teenage life. It started early that morning when a group chat began buzzing with shocking messages. Friends of a 17-year-old girl named Bianca Devins were confused and terrified. Someone on Discord, a popular chat app, had shared a disturbing photograph. At first glance, it seemed too horrible to be real. The image appeared to show Bianca lifeless, and the claim was that she had been murdered. Some believed it was just another internet hoax. After all, Discord and similar online spaces were often flooded with disturbing memes and fake gore meant to shock or get attention. But the fear grew quickly, and before long, one of the people in that online community actually called the police. "Good morning," the caller said nervously. "I believe someone may have been murdered." A picture was posted in my online group, and it looks like a girl named Bianca is dead. At first, even the officers who received the call didn't know what to make of it. Could it be a prank? Could it be staged? But as the disturbing photograph began to spread from Discord to Twitter and Instagram, confusion gave way to alarm. People debated if it was real, others turned it into cruel jokes, and still more shared it widely without thinking about the horror behind the pixels. For Bianca's mother, Kim, the nightmare began when officers knocked on her door. They didn't show her the photo, but they asked questions no parent ever wants to hear. They said they had reason to believe her daughter might be in danger. At that moment, Kim didn't yet know that the photo was real, that her daughter wasn't coming home. She only knew Bianca had gone to a concert in New York City the night before with friends. She had texted her mom afterward saying she was heading home, sounding happy and free, enjoying her first taste of adult independence after recently graduating high school. Bianca Devins was, to the outside world, a bright, beautiful, talented young woman. She was a gifted artist, an aspiring model, and a loving older sister. She was also a teenager navigating the struggles of mental health and the complexities of growing up in the age of social media. From a young age, Bianca dealt with anxiety and depression. She started therapy at 9 years old, and by 13, she was struggling with isolation. Online, she found a kind of escape. She created multiple personas on Instagram, Discord, and even the darker corners of the web, like 4chan. To her friends and followers, she was what some called an e-girl, edgy, artistic, with colored hair and a mix of vulnerability and confidence that drew people in. Her online world wasn't just about fun, though. It also attracted men who became fixated on her, men often called orbiters, who circled around her life, desperate for her attention. Bianca, patient and kind, often responded to them, even when it was to her own detriment. One of those men was Brandon Clark. Clark was 21 years old when he first connected with Bianca on Instagram. To her mother, he seemed harmless, an awkward, nerdy young man who drove for Lyft, nothing threatening on the surface. He and Bianca began spending time together, but she made it clear she wasn't looking for a serious, exclusive relationship. She was young, exploring her independence, not ready to be tied down. Clark seemed to accept that, at least outwardly. But behind the scenes, something darker was growing. On the night of July 13th, 2019, Bianca went to a concert in Queens, New York. She was excited, dressed up, and full of anticipation. Clark drove her there, but they weren't alone. Another young man, a friend named Alex, also joined them. According to messages Bianca later sent, she worried Clark might be jealous if he saw her getting close to Alex. And indeed, he did. Witnesses and messages revealed that Bianca shared a kiss with Alex that night, something that would become the spark for Clark's deadly rage. As dawn approached and the trio headed back to Utica, Clark's online posts turned ominous. He uploaded a photo of the New York State Thruway with the caption, "Here comes hell." Hours later, the world would understand what he meant. At some point after the concert, Clark and Bianca ended up alone in his car. What happened next was captured in a video found on his phone. A video so horrifying that even seasoned investigators struggled to watch. In it, Clark confronts Bianca about the kiss. She apologizes, she reminds him they weren't exclusive, and she asks if he's ready to take her home. But to Clark, her words weren't enough. He had already made a decision. From his phone's notes app, investigators later discovered a chilling checklist he had prepared days earlier. It included items like setting up music, preparing his phone, and bringing a knife. He had planned every step of the crime. In the car, after Bianca's apology, Clark pulled out the knife. She never saw it coming. He attacked her in cold blood, recording parts of the murder on his phone. Afterward, he took photos of her lifeless body and began posting them online with chilling captions like, "I'm sorry, Bianca." As horrifying as the crime itself was, what came next deepened the wound for Bianca's loved ones. Those photos spread rapidly across social media, re-uploaded again and again despite desperate pleas from her family to have them removed. Strangers turned her death into memes. Trolls sent the photos directly to her family members, a form of cruelty so extreme it was described as psychological terrorism. Her younger sister had to step away from social media altogether, unable to risk seeing the images of her sibling in such a state. Meanwhile, police raced to find Clark. He had called 911 himself, admitting what he had done, threatening to kill himself, and eventually leading officers to his location. When they arrived, he slashed his own neck in front of them, trying to stage a dramatic finale. They disarmed him and rushed him to the hospital, saving his life. Just yards away, under a tarp, they found Bianca's body. The crime shook the community. A candlelight vigil was held where hundreds dressed in pink, Bianca's favorite color. Her grandfather sang "Puff the Magic Dragon," a song he used to sing to her when she was little, a song she later sang to her younger sister. It was a heartbreaking tribute to a life cut short. But online, the nightmare continued. The images of her death were weaponized by cruel strangers. Some belonged to toxic communities like incels, men who believe they are involuntarily celibate and blame women for their lack of relationships. Within these groups, Bianca was labeled a Stacy, a term for attractive women they claim are unattainable. To them, Clark was celebrated as a kind of twisted hero. It was a sickening demonstration of how hate can fester and spread online. Investigators built their case methodically. They had the video, the photos, the notes, the online posts, and Clark's own confession. It was clear this was not a crime of passion, but premeditated murder. He was charged with second-degree murder, and though he initially pleaded not guilty, he later changed his plea to guilty, only to try to take it back before sentencing. In court, Bianca's family faced him directly. Her mother described the indescribable pain of losing her daughter in such a cruel way, the pain of knowing her final moments were broadcast to the world. Her grandfather said Clark deserved to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Clark, for his part, offered apologies, but they rang hollow. To Bianca's family, his words were just another act in his manipulative game. Ultimately, the judge agreed, giving him the maximum sentence, 25 years to life in prison. But even with him behind bars, the fight wasn't over. Bianca's family turned their grief into action, pushing for legislation they called Bianca's Law. The bill would hold social media companies accountable for violent and graphic content, forcing them to take responsibility when such images spread unchecked. They also established a scholarship in Bianca's name to help other young people who, like her, struggle with mental health. Bianca Devins' story is one of profound tragedy, but also of love, resilience, and a demand for change. She was more than a victim, more than an image exploited by strangers. She was a daughter, a sister, an artist, a young woman with dreams and potential. She should be remembered for her smile, her creativity, and her caring heart, not for the cruel way her life was stolen. And as this story closes, there's a message that cannot be ignored. Behind every username, every photo, every online persona, there's a real human being. The internet can blur that reality, making cruelty easier, making empathy harder. But Bianca's story reminds us of what's at stake when we forget. She will never be forgotten.